Good evening, and I forgot to post links on social media. Welcome to Momentous Live, episode 49. Here we are, just bantering away, cramming articles into our eye holes, and forgetting to post things on social. So while you all talk soon, I'll be doing some of that stuff. And
Can
while
I
the
turn
rest
my
of it,
lights off?
sure. Wow, we're so on it today.
Oh,
I
no,
love
we're
that.
live, Will. We're live. He doesn't know
It's already
that. That's
happening.
okay.
Yeah, he knows. It's fine. Well, we are live. Yeah, he's just doing it live. That's fine. He's like Bill O'Reilly.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Okay, so I'll frantically do some stuff once we get going here. But first, a little bit of kind of follow-up. My pick of the week last week, as I mentioned, was picking up a used 2016 Kia Soul EV, which has been lots of fun and a great learning experience for getting a short-ish range EV. Pro tip: if you're charging your vehicle overnight, make sure the GFCI breaker doesn't go off in the middle of the night, because you've got some other stuff plugged in there, such as outdoor lighting that doesn't like the moisture and it trips the thing, and then you go to visit the in-laws the next day and you realize you only got 2/3 of your capacity. So then when you get there, you got to make sure you plug in and top up, and then you white knuckle at home. So
You've already had range anxiety in like the first
all
week of
good.
owning this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. All you got to do is just turn all your accessories off. All right, no heat. We don't need heat. No, maybe we'll turn off the lights. No, we got to have the lights, because the man wants you to be seen on the roads at night. But I just wanted to do a quick follow-up and talk about, since having just gone through this experience myself buying a used EV, and if anyone out there was thinking of dipping their toes in the water, I just wanted to point everyone to some resources online, just some tips, and including some of the things that we did when making our purchase. And so what are some of the pros and cons of getting a used EV? And so just very very quickly, and then we're going to talk about a couple of new EVs that are coming soon. So of course, the obvious benefits are way much cheaper to operate, way less maintenance. Ours, estimating about $125 Canadian per year for regular maintenance. It's mostly fluids, air cabin filters, stuff like that. It's kind of weird, just like driving by gas stations and going, oh damn, look at the gas prices, and like, oh, not all that relevant to us anymore. We have another car. Actually, we have a couple other cars still. We got to get rid of one, and we still have my dad's car here too. It's like a used car lot in our front yard at the moment. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So, but just like not having to really worry so much about those crazy gas prices. You come home and just top up, and it's literally pennies. So, then there's not the time. There's not the whole thing. Trying to figure out, I'm gonna, check out Gas Buddy and see when the gas is cheapest, and like drive around town trying to find the best prices. Not too far from Will, there's actually a corner with 2 gas stations, and they're some of the cheapest in town. Actually, not to dox Will too much there. And of course, there's the environmental aspects, the whole benefits of getting a used car rather than adding to demand for new vehicles. And then the other thing when you buy a used EV, if it's got a decent warranty to it, that like with the one that we got, the 2016 Kia Soul EV, 8-year battery warranty, and we still have almost 2 years left on it. So a lot of the automakers are kind of rewarding the early adopters for taking a chance on these vehicles. And if you drive it hard enough, get that state of health down low enough, next thing you know, you'll get a brand new battery that should extend the life of the vehicle by another 10 or 15 years, which is great. So I'll report back in a couple of years and see how that goes. Of course, drawbacks of
getting a new car. It'd be like, and you've won a brand new battery.
Yeah, it's just like going to the Apple store, right? And it's not worth it for them to replace the screen on your iPad or something. It's like, here's a new one. It's like, okay. Of course, some of the downsides, the availability of charging stations, especially if you don't have a Tesla. Of course, Tesla has poured so much money into their supercharger network, which is great and reassuring. All the others, there's Electrify America, Electrify Canada that we've talked about, and sometimes it's hard to know what the state of those chargers is in, and so on. Charging technology is still evolving. Battery technology is still evolving. So, of course, newer vehicles will have better batteries and longer range. So the one we've got, like I mentioned last week, 150-kilometer range in the summer, but 100 kilometers in the winter. Again, great for 95% of our driving, but if you want to be doing those road trips, newer vehicles will get you, 200, 300, 400 miles. So, we're looking 300, 400, 500, almost 600 kilometers in some cases, but you're paying new car prices for that. And then the other thing too is, like, if you're buying a new EV, even and a used EV, they both depreciate quicker than regular gas-powered vehicles, just because they are so new and the technology is changing so rapidly. So that's why I like the idea of getting a used one, because the bulk of the depreciation from the first few years has been absorbed by the previous owner. Also, in the show notes, I'm going to include some links on some of the things to make sure to check out when you're buying a used EV, such as taking it somewhere where they can check the state of health of the battery, finding out if the battery got replaced, what the warranty is. Of course, just when you're buying any used car, what the maintenance history is like on that particular vehicle. And and also making sure you're going in eyes wide open, unlike Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. You knowing exactly what kind of range you're looking for in a vehicle, so that you're not always anxious about it. People talk about range anxiety all the time. Getting the lay of the land in terms of EV chargers in your neighborhood, and not just banking on the fact that there may be more in the future. Like, there probably will be, but you're living in the real world, not the perfect world, right? And then, of course, there's lots of incentives from various levels of government. Here in Canada, in BC, we've got provincial incentives, federal incentives as well. Some of those incentives don't apply to vehicles $50,000 MSRP or higher. So, and then most of those incentives do not apply to used vehicles as well. Unless you're in Ontario, they do have a rebate available, or a tax credit available for buying used cars in Ontario, which is kind of a neat thing too. And then also be prepared for any potential extra costs regarding charging. Lots of people, especially with the short range vehicles like ourselves, we can get by with charging through 110, just our regular outlet. But if you might get some rewiring done if you want to use a 220 outlet, such as is used by your electric stove or your clothes dryer. You could get some that wired into your carport or your garage. So there's some costs there. Or if you want to get a level 2 charger, you're looking at even more. So anywhere between 500, 600 up to a couple of $1,000s, depending on which way you go with the parts and the electrician's time and stuff like that. So just a few things there for everyone to bear in mind when shopping for a new, or especially a used EV. So just very quick before we get into some of the new EVs here, round robin. Will, how many years do you think it's going to be before you test the waters, either with a new or a used one?
I'm very interested. Like, I think I've said this in the past that I'm very keen on an electric car. I just think that there needs to be a few more options out there for me. I mean, actually, we are thinking about maybe getting another car in the next couple of years. My car is fairly old at this point. I think it's 16 or 17 years old. So it's trying to look at a new car. And sort of like you, Tristan, we already have another car. So having a second car that's more around the city is appealing to me. But I think I'm looking at the prices maybe coming down, or just a few more offerings in terms of different types of cars. So I know there's a lot of stuff that's already coming onto the market all the time, but and we talk a lot about it on this live stream. But yeah, no, I'm looking for a few more options. I mean, one thing for me is, I think I've said this before, I like BMWs, but I'm not a huge fan. It's either the $100,000 car or the thing that looks like something out of the Jetsons. So I know they're coming out with some hybrids and things like that. There's a Mini that's an electric car that I think is coming out that looks interesting as well. But yeah, so I think I'm just looking for a few more options, because most of the stuff you see around is Teslas or something like that. So
Will, may I entice you with the thought of a Toyota?
well, I'm interested.
Because if they're on track, what they announced a couple years ago was that basically every single model that they have, every single vehicle model was going to be available in both hybrid and fully electric by 2025. Now, I don't know if they're going to hit the 2025 milestone on that, but they already pretty well, a lot of the SUVs and stuff already have hybrid models. So I think they're pretty close. So, you'll have options soon. Because I think for me, like, I'm with you in the next few years, I'll be upgrading, and I definitely want to I'll probably do a hybrid only because we do road trips to California to see my sister-in-law and stuff. And I've got to be able to make it, like, we have one place that we stop on the way and then you keep going. And there are chargers there, and there's the fast Tesla chargers there as well. But like, you need to have that range. So I might have to do hybrid in the meantime, unless there's a big jump, I think, in the mileage.
I used to drive a hybrid about 10 years ago for work. When I worked at the Olympics, we had access to hybrid cars, or a hybrid fleet of cars. I drove up to Whistler a couple times in a minivan. I think it was like a Sienna or something that was like a hybrid. It was some sort of minivan, and I had a bunch of gear in the back. And the only thing I remember, and I'm sure that they've changed a lot since then, but I remember going up the hill and I could feel when the electric motor kicked in. And like, I just lost a ton of power. Like, it just like, it was like, I was like, oh man. So I've been scared off from hybrids because of that, but I'm sure they're better. This was like 2010 or 2009 or something like that. So it was a GM.
Yeah, that's a little crazy, and maybe it's just the way that particular model was working, because in some cases with hybrids, they're not so much. I mean, in some cases to extend or to lengthen the fuel efficiency, but in some cases they're there to add power as well, not give you less power. A case in point was the BMW i8 that we got to test out at, was it 2014 CES?
Yep.
And sure, it was technically a hybrid, and we were excited for that reason, but it was there as an additive thing, not so much as a cost savings thing.
It was ludicrous speed, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got some dirt. You guys want some dirt?
Dirt.
Yes.
Dirt.
Well, before you give us the
tea.
dirt, before you give us the dirt, hold on and tell us your thoughts. What's your time horizon looking like? Because
this is part of the dirt.
Your vehicle is only a couple of years old. And yes. I know that you've been like talking more about testing the EV waters a bit. So what's your time horizon? Are you looking full EV, hybrid, plug-in hybrid?
I'm going full EV.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm looking for a long range vehicle. But I mean, possibly with a little escape pod I was talking about last week. But like I said, we've been looking at the Rivian and having something that is capable of out into the mountains and back. If you are in a pinch, like we've got big solar panels, these things can supply enough juice. I don't see why that would be a terrible thing. I mean, it's not like it ever rains here in Vancouver, so it should be fine, right?
And you just need to extend your stay for a week while those sort of solar panels try to charge up your battery.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, it can't come in. Still stuck in the mountains. I'll be back in a week. Yeah.
Or you get like they have
drive it here.
Or like they have those wind up radios and flashlights. Maybe you could.
Right? See,
like, oh yeah, and like the play date, you could.
I could actually plug them all in together and just. Nice. Yeah, it's good.
Crank it.
If it worked for planes in World War I, it'll work for me. It's fine. I think like, so it's 2017 Mini Countryman, right? We bought it pre-owned because just great value. But it's got a 6-year warranty. I did 5-year financing on it, and so we've got a year left on the financing, and then 2 years left on the warranty. And I'd love to be able to sell it with a year warranty on it. So I think we're closing in now. The challenge is obviously with vehicles like this being able to, isn't this crazy? Get a reservation in to buy the car that you want.
That's the case with a Toyota RAV4 Prime at the moment. I know someone who managed to get one only because someone who was on the list declined the color because it was red, and then they had an in with the dealer, and so they managed to snag that one. Otherwise, it was going to be a year wait.
Now, the RAV4 Prime, that's the one that transforms into a giant robot?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's got the all-spark.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of years. But
So are you looking at minis initially, or are you
we did. Like
broadening the
we
search?
actually looked. So there's a hybrid Countryman that it only gets you about 45, 50 kilometers of range, so not massive. But it was also $10,000 more new than
Right.
the ICE version. So stuck it out for now.
And that's
But
the premium that we all have to wrap our minds around, right? Like even in the used market, we could have got a used regular Kia Soul, maybe for 3/4 of the price, but there's a certain point when you have the means that there are other reasons, whether whether environmental or otherwise, or like gas savings and whatnot, to spring for that, even though it might take you 10 years to break even on the gas.
well,
So
this
the Mini you're looking at, that 45 kilometers, so it's a plug-in hybrid.
That yeah, it is. No. Here's the math to wrap your head around. We've had the
Mhm.
car since 2018. It is now 2022. Anyone want to guess it had 7,000 kilometers on it to begin with? Anyone want to guess the number of kilometers I've got on this vehicle?
It had 7,000.
Yep.
Okay, I know you've done a couple road trips, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm. I walk to work. Ray walks dogs for a living right now.
8,200.
I'm gonna say $1.
They're roughly
99
45,000
cents.
roughly 45,000 kilometers on that. It would take a lifetime for me to pay that back in an EV. Now I do want to move for environmental reasons. I want to shift over because it's just as little damage as we're putting on the environment right now, we're still putting damage onto the environment. So we want to shift over. But it's going to be a combination of things as opposed to that being the primary motivating factor. Because when people say like the amount of savings that I get on gasoline, I'm like, I put $100 in like every between 3 and 6 weeks, usually on the 6-week mark.
So what's your dirt?
So the dirt is electromechanical. So I poked around, started asking around, and there has been a massive shift over in the company. The founder's son was actually part of the company for a while, and it looks like that might be changing. They shipped 61 vehicles last year, 61 solos, which I think kind of rolls off the line at Tesla maybe every half a day or so. They delivered 19 of those in December. Now, interestingly enough, one of our momentous hosts is actually very close to one of the facilities that they're building. They're building a facility in Arizona. So, Deja, you're going to have to go check this out.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Okay.
So, we've been, it's in Mesa.
That's close.
Yeah, there's a test track and all sorts of good stuff, apparently.
No way. Really?
Yeah, I'm see what I can do to see if I can have some conversations to see if we can
Road trip.
chat with folks down there.
You guys, let's have some fun in the sun together.
Right? Because it was raining and I don't want to be here.
Listen, I've got a lead on 2 places where you can get your PCR test for free because you don't have insurance here to get back into Canada. So I got you covered.
Nice.
So come on down.
Excellent. So
that's cool.
It looks like in the summer of 2022, it will be live. So we've got to wait for it to open up. But it's also
I'm gonna rip around in one of those in like 112, 120 degree heat. Woo, baby!
You can't use the AC because you don't want to run the battery down.
Well, so
we're
here's
gonna
the thing
see
that
how
I
long
heard.
the batteries last.
Here's the thing that I learned is this is the enhanced U.S. built 2023 model. So I asked what enhanced meant, and I got the sly smile. So we'll have to see.
Okay.
Does it turn into a rocket off the starting line? Does it have AC that can actually run while I play the radio? Who knows? But it's enhanced. So
looking at it, I think it'll do a barrel roll pretty quickly.
Right. So in any case, I'm still looking for my test drive. Didn't get my test drive, but I will keep you posted if that is going to happen, because we need to be out there with cameras just in case I do a barrel roll. So
Nice. All right. So now that we've kind of established a baseline of what our sort of time horizons are and our general preferences for getting into the EV market, there are there were 3 announcements at least this week, one pure EV and a couple of plug-in hybrids, also known as PHEVs. So Subaru has opened reservations for the Solterra EV, which is a pure EV, and there's going to be a Toyota version called the BZ4X. So we're looking at a range about 220 to 250 miles. Reservation slots are going to be $250 US, and they're expecting to start shipping it this summer. And so just to show you a couple of quick photos of this fella here, and looks like, a Subaru, just like, a lot of the some EVs like make a point of being very different looking, whereas some look familiar, but with some styling cues. A lot of those have to do with the grill. Some of it's like sealing off the grill because they don't need the same kind of air cooling. Some cooling is required for batteries when it's hot, just like some warming is required for batteries when it's cold. But they got a two-tone upholstery color scheme. I'm not sure I'm really hot on the brown interior, but maybe that's an option. But this is an all-wheel drive. This is something that we've been interested in. So when it comes for us to replace our second car, a couple of 2, 3, 4 years down the road, this is something that we might be looking at, because we have a Subaru now that we got secondhand a few years ago. Really enjoy the symmetrical all-wheel drive, and I'm not a fan of the CVTs that you find in some of the newer gas engines from Subaru, the constant velocity transmissions. The EVs, it's kind of like that, even more so. It's just like that straight up torque curve. But with the CVTs, they're just a lot more fragile. So what do you guys think of this here as a way to get in the pure EV? I haven't been able to find a price on it yet, but we can imagine it's probably at least $10,000 to $15,000 premium from the from the other comparable offerings that Subaru offers. Will, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I've always kind of liked Subarus. It's an interesting looking vehicle. It's funny how this seems to be very popular. Like grills seem to be like solid now. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, and it's definitely got an interesting, aggressive look. I mean, it's nice that they're creating more options.
Yeah, Subaru's highly rated as a brand overall. And I like the look of this. It looks like to me, like a combination, like it kind of is like hearkening to some of the newer Toyota designs, like with their updated like RAV models and stuff
it's
like
very
that.
RAV4 for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's what I drive, but an older model. So I like that a lot. It looks sharp. I mean, I wouldn't get that color, but.
Gray, you do a lot of camping, and I'm not sure if you do any kind of off-roading. This doesn't look like it's really built for off-roading. It doesn't have quite the clearance there, but as a camping vehicle, would this make it on your list? You hate it?
Really?
Yeah. Go on.
Don't hold that.
I'm sorry.
Drama,
somebody had to say something. I said no. Well, and here's the thing. I've always loved like a crossover hatchy sort of thing. I've never understood sedans. Sedans don't make sense to me. Like there's a chunk of the car back there, and you just kind of cut it, and there's a gap. Like just box that thing out. So I mean.
You mean like a station wagon? Like maybe it looks too station wagony for you?
We don't go to gas stations anymore, so it can't be a station wagon. That's where the station comes. No,
Go on.
It's neat. I mean, like I love the dust trails here, as they're Tokyo drifting around the corner. They're very cool. That's the thing. I like some very close friends of mine have a Subaru, and they absolutely love it. And I think it looks like a really cool vehicle. I don't know. This is for me. First of all, I'm not really feeling the interior. It's probably amazing, and I'm sorry for Subaru that you're out there. I wouldn't be mine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there's some sex appeal here that's just not. It's not there for me.
Yeah, some of the choices are interesting. It's actually a little tidier than some of the other Subarus in the last few years. Part of the problem with a lot of vehicles is that they've either gone so many buttons that it's overwhelming, or they've gone the Tesla way and it's like no buttons.
Yeah.
It's like finding that happy medium is nice. This one looks kind of like they're threading the needle recently, and there's that big panel at the bottom. I'm not sure if that's a touch surface like you see in some of the new Audis.
Rivian's got that problem where I think like they've got their touch panel, and I don't know, it's like some sort of series of drumming on the steering wheel, because that's the only other way I can see to interact with the thing. And I shouldn't need a manual to figure out how to do the things in my car. They should be more intuitive. That said, the Mini has these like toggles, chromed toggles on the bottom that look like they fire the afterburners and things.
Mhm.
And one of them, I did not know what it did until I had a flat at one point and had some time, so I read the rest of the manual. And stay with me on this one. You drop it down into drive. You pop it over into the semi-manual shifting that you can do with the clutchless manual shifting, and then you hit this button, and it turns dynamic traction control off, so that when you're in mud or snow, you actually have more manual traction control. And it's an amazing mode. I've used it so many times since then,
Mhm.
but it just feels like there's like this secret series of knocks, like 1, 2, 3, click, 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 and now it does it. Why is there not just a button that goes?
Mhm.
That's where I need to be.
Well, that's one of the nice things about some of the traditional symmetrical all-wheel drive in the Subarus is that all four wheels are engaged all the time, and you always feel planted. You can take corners, decent speed when it's wet or gravelly, whatever. The traction controls there, and ours is 14 years old, and it drives amazingly well. It's a little sedan compared to, as opposed to this crossover that we're looking at here. The only knock on full-time all-wheel drive is the gas mileage, or EV mileage, as the case may be. So having vehicles where you have that option, like a traditional four-wheel drive, where you can drive in two-wheel drive and then switch it over to all-wheel drive when you need it, is nice to have for sure. So another vehicle that is a plug-in hybrid that is somewhat similar in look and feel. We spoke a bit more at length about Kia last week, when again talking about the used purchase that we made. But the Kia Sportage, which is one of their endless number of crossovers they seem to have, the fifth generation debuted last year, and they have a hybrid variant. But now they've got a plug-in hybrid for the 2023 year that'll be coming out this fall. 177 horsepower. 1.6 liter turbocharged four-cylinder engine plus a 67 kilowatt electric motor working in tandem. So it's interesting. It's a little different than other plug-in hybrids where the gas engine simply serves as a generator to charge the battery. It looks like this one is more closely linked in to the drivetrain, again, which adds to the complexity. But you maybe get a little bit more power. What do you guys think of the look of this one, and or some of the features they've got there? Again, when you've got the gas motor as well, you get more range, and the range here, I had it a moment ago, and now
32 miles.
32 miles on the battery. So if you just want to go full on battery power, it's 32 miles, and I imagine you could probably go, another 300 miles at least with the gas motor, depending on how big the gas tank is. Maybe we'll do a real time follow up on that. So, sticking with you, Gray, just to before we go back around the horn, this one, they're not. There's no dust trails here. This one looks like a little bit more, maybe city oriented, even though they have some beauty shots out on the, out on the mountaintops.
This one I actually do dislike the like of, actually.
Okay, and so you actively dislike the Lego.
Yeah, the headlights kind of look like it's squinting at you. It doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of sex appeal here. It looks like a minivan that's trying to be an SUV and failing. So sorry, Kia. That's my mom loved her Sorento. Best I can do.
There's something about these colors too. It's interesting. They almost look like flat, or I don't know how to describe them. You see a lot of cars with these sort of grayish. Unreflective. I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like metal. It almost looks like plastic sheeting or something.
To make it look like a home spray can paint job. That seems to be the trend. And you see some people do this on purpose to make their cars stand out. It's like, really?
This is rattle can gray.
Yeah, it's not a terrific look to my mind. But Will, if you had to choose between this one, or the Subaru, any thoughts there? Because this is a plug-in hybrid which has you that gas option versus the pure electric of the Kia.
Yeah,
I mean of the
Subaru better myself.
So going on. All right. How about you, Tasia?
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Gray. It's the headlights for me that are just throwing me off a little bit.
It looks like a South Park character that's angry.
Okay, well,
right?
Let's give you something a bit more edgy. Alfa Romeo. It's not nothing's real until the Italians get into it, of course.
Yes.
And Alfa Romeo they're sticking with their traditional grill, the inverted triangle grill, which has always looked like a weird kind of fang to me. It works better on some of their models than others, but they've got the Tonale, which is a smaller than the Stelvio SUV, but you can see this. It looks even slightly smaller than the other two that we just talked about. Is another crossover, but this is a plug-in hybrid with a 4-cylinder engine with 180 horsepower, and you got the electric motor contributing another 120 horsepower. So looks pretty peppy. You get 256 horsepower altogether. It's got all the mod cons like CarPlay and Android and whatnot. Again, coming out in 2023. We don't have as much in the way of photos for this one, but it's Alfa Romeo has always been a design first sort of company. There, the interior looks okay to me. Any thoughts on initial impressions on this, Tasia? Being our Italian correspondent from Momentous.
Yes, if I may say, the interior is sexy. Thank you very much. You don't think so? Look at it. With how the colors reflecting. I like that steering wheel.
Yeah.
Right? It's hot.
I have to admit, I have a soft spot for Alfa Romeos in general. Again, their body styles can be hit and miss because they're very opinionated designs, for sure. I'm not sure about the outside of this one. It's hard to say. I mean, it is a little softer, a little more elegant.
The rims are interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting how, it's kind of called like a compact SUV. It looks more like that kind of car mixed with like what Gray just loves so much.
And so we're looking again here.
I like it.
Yeah. So we got 30 miles electric range, but you've also got your gas engine there for the range anxiety. Will?
What's interesting is with any of these SUVs, it's something about a luxury SUV. I know this is also electrified, but they end up looking like Mazdas to me. I mean, I think the interior.
This looks like a CX-5 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just I saw a Lamborghini. I think I said a few months ago.
The Urus.
Yeah. It's just what? That's a Lamborghini. Is there a Mustang rolling around too? That's SUV.
Actually, the Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, is their EV. That is an SUV. It's like a crossover, but it actually doesn't look too bad, honestly. And they're selling.
It looks
quite
better
a lot.
than this, but I do like this car, especially the interior and the grille. But it's something about the body shape just looks like a Mazda to me. But it's not on them. What I'm trying to say is I think that a lot of these luxury brands end up looking like that.
Gray, last word?
Last word on this one? Well, I mean, I like the look of this. I love the color. This looks like an Italian car to me. What I do find interesting, though, is the other piece of this. The NFT piece.
That's one of the reasons why this story was featured. Thank you for picking it up.
So, basically what the dealership said here is that, or what the manufacturer said is that you will have a non-modifiable, I would presume by the consumer, record of the maintenance through the life of the vehicle, which is an interesting thing to kind of keep in mind. If you get your oil changes and that sort of thing, if someone's buying a very expensive vehicle, I would imagine that they would want to know that the maintenance has been done by an authorized place. And of course, everyone out there is going, well, if I take it to my local Jiffy Lube, but no, of course they won't be able to change that. And that's actually, I think, part of the point here, which you may find, reprehensible or delightful. I'm kind of in the middle on it. This actually, though, is a good use for NFTs. This is the type of thing that you want to have if you did want to have a non-modifiable record, this is it. What I'm really disappointed in, though, is that it should also come with an NFT of the vehicle for use in the metaverse. And I think they're missing a huge opportunity if they don't do that. So that idea, Alfa Romeo, that's yours for free. You can have that. And I would like a free NFT when you're done. Thank you very much.
It would be fun to be able to drive it around in Mario Kart 9.
Right? See? Forget it now.
Now, you the whole idea of the immutable ledger in the blockchain, you very well could have your service record modified by authorized providers, so that rather than running around trying to find records from whoever did the service on the car, whoever has been authorized to modify that blockchain record. So then a future owner could go, a future potential buyer could look at that and go, okay, well, there it is. And it does discourage the use. I mean, in some way, it's a bad thing. So we've talked about thing right to repair, and I guess by extension, right to service. So it does discourage the home user. But with there's not, I mean, there are, with these hybrids, there are still things like oil changes and whatnot. And do they really need to be done at the dealer? So is this a kind of lock-in, or ultimately, or is this something that is the benefits outweigh the potential downsides here in the right to repair zeitgeist?
And I think you've actually hit on the point there, which is that if we're going to have these types of things become part of our life, as long as someone can do the job competently and to a point where it will not damage the thing that's being serviced, they should have the right to repair and right to service. So that, and what that means is, for Apple and for other companies that do like to have their own service divisions and they make a lot of money off their own service divisions, you're now going to have to start authorizing people to do that, or you don't get to lock people out at all. And I think that's the trade-off. Apple's got their repair program coming. And so that's what I'd like to see here is mom and pop shops on the corner should be able to do this service, but they got to prove to me they can do it first. I will say, if you get a chance, go visit, it's Reddit's R just rolled into the shop. And it is from mechanics all around the world who will show you things that have been done by consumers or that have been done by other shops. They're an absolute disaster when it comes to vehicles. There was somebody with a lift kit on there the other day, and a coworker had done this. Apparently the guy had taken a brake course online, and then when this lift kit was supposed to be applied, and it basically had driven the lift kit up through the side of the vehicle, almost completely destroyed. And so when you've got a vehicle if you've got any vehicle at all, you don't want someone who's not competent working on it. So the idea of being able to sign a blockchain entry that validates, one, the person that's doing this has the creds, and two, they did a good job. That's actually a perfect use case for NFTs.
All right. We've got one last EV for us today. And if the kind of ranges that we've been talking about, 400, 500, 600 kilometers, whether on a pure EV, if you're willing to pay a premium, or in some sort of hybrid, including plug-in hybrids, how about a pure EV with 1,000 kilometer range? We have the Fresco XL, and we talk about design and future cars. Get a load of this.
What?
Is it Blade Runner?
I know.
Somebody took a Cybertruck and put it in a rock tumbler.
Exactly. Now, one of the things, whenever we see these concepts, and including the Cybertruck, they're never compliant, right? For example, we don't have side view mirrors on there. Now, the question is, will the regulatory authorities finally start allowing the use of the cameras, the side view cameras, which display on screens inside your car, and Hyundai and Kia have been doing that in addition to their side view mirrors too. But at what point will the authorities be happy and comfortable with eliminating optical side view mirrors altogether? Because that's the only thing that's the kind of cooperation you're going to need in order to see these super futuristic designs actually make it to the market, because those sort of extrusions actually affect your aerodynamics. So if you can remove all of those things, it'll help you get the even greater range than before. So, looking at, in addition to what they're doing here is they're double stacking the batteries. So this is going to be one heavy vehicle. Yeah. But again, that's about as smooth as you can get it. These are future cars.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It looks like a mouse. Like a computer mouse.
Click, click.
Oh, and you
have to, it's only got one button.
Yeah, and you have to flip it. You have to flip it over to plug it in, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's so that the cable doesn't damage the charging port.
I know. I'm full agreement there. The haters can suck it, because that's the whole point. It'll charge in 5 or 10 minutes. Go to the washroom, make yourself a beverage, plug that thing in. Because people don't realize if you stick it in the front, people are going to try and use it, and it's like a plug-in mouse, and it's like then your cable's going to get all messed up. And people,
my Logitech charging port broke because of that.
Yeah, I had a rechargeable mouse a million years ago, and I fell into that very thing. It's like, I'll just leave this plugged in. It's like, no. And Johnny Ive would not have wanted it that way. So even though he's not there anymore, his legacy lives on in the
his spirit haunts the halls.
Exactly. So yes. So Will, does this scratch your design itch here?
It's a little bit too minimal for me. It kind of looks like RoboCop or a mouse or a toy or something. I don't love it. Something this clean. I'm not a big fan of minimal design. Mm-hmm. Occasionally it can work, but sometimes I find it too minimal.
But it's a future car. It's the future. Tasia, what about you, Ms. Rav4? Is this too smooth for you?
Oh my gosh, I just am. I don't. First of all, I'm very short, so I don't think I would be like. I'd feel like me hiking my seat up would just might be my head slammed against that windshield. So I don't know. It's a
Maybe
little
later,
smushy car. I'd
maybe a
get
little generation
smushed.
will drive itself, and then you don't have to worry about that. You could just like
Yes, if it
glide.
drove itself and everybody else on the road was in vehicles similar size driving themselves, then I'd be down.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Mr. Tears and Rain, what do you think? Is this Blade Runner enough for you?
I love this. It's great.
All right.
A car that looks like soap on a rope. I'm so in. I actually,
Just don't drop it.
I do think it's a great design.
All-wheel drive, transformed into a camper by pulling down the passenger seats,
right?
and
Yeah,
use
no,
it as backup energy storage for your house,
That's
two-way
cool.
charging.
Yep.
But-
Yep. I'll take one. Wrap it up. 140,000. I'll take 2. I like it.
Sounds good. I think that is like the most future of the future cars we've seen for a while, and that's like, you know, it's almost like if Apple was to do a car, you kind of think that's what it would look like, but now they got beaten to the punch.
Yep. That's
if
mind
they're ever
melting.
gonna do it.
Mind melting. Womentus is that? That's what that is.
Momentous.
Whoa.
Okay, back to some regular sort of tech news, and we're going to hold Tasia personally accountable for this stuff.
Uh-oh.
So
It's not my
th-
doing.
those who have been following along with the various Android updates from Google have been having mixed results. Those with the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro phones have been having some mixed results with the updates over the last few months. One update would make things better, then another update would introduce a bunch of bugs, and it would go back and forth. So again, January update seemed to go okay. But now, with the February software release, both the 6 and the 6 Pro have been, again, not quite perfect. Some people are encountering bugs with Wi-Fi randomly switched off on these flagship phones of Google. So, Tasia, you have is it a 6 or a 6 Pro?
A 6 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I did the February update, and there were a couple separate updates to actually do. I'm sorry, I did the January update.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple separate ones to do. They had an update just to the camera itself, and then they've got like the overall software update. And I did not do the February one. So I can't speak to these bugs, but I can say that this is why I always tell people to never update right away, because you want to wait till that next iteration when the kinks are worked out. The difference here is some people that had issues from before thought, oh, well, I'll do this kind of this patch, this as a, this February one as a patch, and that'll fix some things, but it ended up apparently breaking some things for other people. So I have not tried it. I did read though that the camera update that I did do in January, some people had bugs with that one as well, where it was affecting the camera app, and specifically with their magic eraser feature was kind of some people were having a full shutdown of the camera app upon trying to use magic eraser. I didn't have that issue, so I'm not too sure if maybe they were trying to rush something in this overall update to fix a lot of these little things, and clearly something went wrong. But there's enough users that there's like a lot of Reddit threads and people online like just kind of like, well, great, glad I did another update, another broken phone. It's just like, I don't know.
And of course, our grandparents are like, well, back in my day, you wanted to make a phone call, you didn't have to update anything. You just picked up the thing and dialed
the phone. Yeah, exactly.
So I think now, good advice, and this is something that we've repeated a few times over the months with Momentous. Most of us like to give it a little while, at least a few days before doing updates. Some of us like to fly a little closer to the sun than others. Gray, but not on the betas so much anymore. I know that you used to fly even closer to the sun there, but I think one of the things that's works to Google's advantage is that a couple of years ago when they managed to separate out updates of the various components of the phone, like having a camera update, even some of the individual first-party apps can get updated through Google Play services. Unlike Apple, which takes a bit more of a monolithic approach, and the first party apps don't get updated until you do some kind of full OS update, and you might not be prepared for the full OS update because of some glitches, which tend to get worked out within a week or two. But then Apple entices you with, oh, we've got a new emoji now, it's time. So hopefully things are settling down for Google. We'll be settling down, and maybe with the March release here. But then,
well, what's interesting too is that this seems to really only have affected like the 6 and the 6 Pro. I haven't really heard of many other users with like, the 5 and 5A and like other models having too much of issues. So I don't really understand enough of it in terms of why, specifically like some Wi-Fi and Bluetooth issues would happen on those newer devices, like the 6 and 6 Pro, which is their flagship device. I'm not really sure what the difference is in that. Is it a hardware thing, a software thing that's causing the glitch for those, but not really the other models?
And let alone the other Android vendors out there, like Samsung and OnePlus, ZTE, and the like, because they have all their own certification processes they go through, and then sometimes even the carriers have their own certification process before Android updates make it out there. So that's why sometimes it can be months before you get the latest and greatest on your Android device, which it kind of ties into a larger issue, because there's another story that came out in this week, how that Google is ending support for the Google Pixel 3, which is only, I believe, 3.5 years old.
I think it was 2018.
So here we are in early 2022. So about 3.5 years. And as compared to Apple, say, who with iOS 15 is still supporting the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, which are 5.5 years old each. Gray, what are your thoughts on this? How long do you think hardware vendors should be supporting their devices, or are people just going to be replacing them quickly anyway? Like, who's still running a 6 or 6 Plus?
Well, and so this is where, probably the most anti-Apple thing I will say. Once your hardware becomes deprecated, you open source it. And that's exactly what should happen here. Any sort of vendor locks that are on their hardware that prevent other software from being run. If you decide that you no longer want to support something, it then becomes public domain. And so either keep it running as long as there are units out there, which probably sucks for you to do, or let it go. And I think what this does is it motivates manufacturers to actually give us a reason to upgrade. Don't just give us a few software features or a small additional piece of hardware. You're going to actually have to try harder if you want us to keep buying your product. That to me is really the only answer here. There's nothing that I look at in the entire pantheon of technology that I have around this house that if it were not compatible with things that I would throw away. There's always a way to use this stuff. There's always someone down the line that can use it. And I think it's absolutely reprehensible that software is the reason why we no longer want to use something.
Yeah.
There's always somewhere to recycle it. There's always somebody down the line. We're starting to see there's a Kickstarter right now for reusing old iPhones and iPads as brain units for open source smart home systems. So yeah, there is no arbitrary time that these things should go away. I'll give you one last example here, actually back in the automotive world. I think I mentioned it last week. My friend John was looking for an ECM for his car, as an engine control module. Managed to find one, but it was a reconditioned one. The only problem with it? You have to get it reprogrammed. You have to have a mobile programmer. So once again, locked out by software. This is the type of thing, right to repair absolutely is important. We do need to have some safeguards in there to protect people, but these things should not be taken out of anyone's hands because the manufacturer no longer wants to tend to it. You don't want to tend to it, set it free.
So I guess the question, some of the details in there is that simply because a manufacturer stops releasing OS updates for a phone doesn't mean it stops working. Right?
Yeah.
So for example, I've got an iPhone 6 Plus, which works great as a backup phone. Most of the basic functions still work. Some of the newest app updates, don't work for it, but for, maybe 80% of what I want to do, again, as a backup phone, because it is 6.5 years old, works just fine. Like how how long should they have to be doing updates for that, given, and then the 6S and the 6S Plus, 5.5 years. Why can Apple do 5.5, 5 and probably almost 6 years, but whereas Google's only like 3.5 years so far? Like,
because they care.
Okay.
Well, and this is it, and this is kind of the fascinating thing that I found about Google, because Google is an advertising company that decided that they wanted to make a phone operating system so they could sell ads on the phone operating system. And then they decided they want to make phones, and they wanted to make TV bits, and they wanted to make smart home, and they wanted cameras. And it's always felt like pinball over on that side. I mean, no disrespect to my friends over at Google. You guys, you do your thing. But Apple has intention, right? They look at a problem, and what they're talking about in their boardrooms right now are the things that we are going to want 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. We don't even know what we're going to want yet because they're skating to where the puck is. Whereas with Google, it's always felt just a little bit reactionary. Google did a remarkably good job and led the way in something that I found was very impressive, and it was a software thing, and it was their Night Shot. So one of those few times where they had just rocketed past where Apple was, because the Night Shot, I can't remember which Pixel it came out on. When it first came out on it was gorgeous, and it's the first time I've actually kind of been envious of an Android phone. Just like, son of a bitch. Well,
it's really good.
I'm not moving, and so not too long after, Apple rolled out their Night Shot, and it's a somewhat similar implementation, but looking in very different ways and different software stacks. And it's got down to the point now where people prefer how Samsung photos look and how Google photos look and how Apple photos look. And Apple answered that this year with the iPhone 13 and iOS 15, being able to set how pictures are default taken with your phone. Just a weird, interesting thing. But that's the thing is Google, they do good software. And I say good, not great, but sometimes it's very, very impressive. But you can see the lack of coordination and the lack of intention. And so why is it only 3 years? Because I think it's just too much for them to handle. There should be a team that's dedicated to this, and there isn't. When I say don't care, I don't mean that in a cruel way. It's just that it's not important enough for them, which I think is tragic, because I think it is for Apple.
Well, it's not like Google spending cycles like maintaining Google Reader or anything. Never forget. They're busy making up new messaging platforms. Sorry.
It's actually messaging platforms is sort of this is the interesting space right now, right? Because obviously Android users have felt locked out of iMessage, and so implementing some of these smart message processing things right now on iPhones, we get the so and so liked the picture as opposed to the little heart emoji, and everyone's get RCS working and this and that, and you kind of look at this. And where Apple had to go and develop this whole iMessage system because the carriers were so greedy that they had to develop something so their customers wouldn't get ripped off, and have led the way and have a dangerous percentage of young people that are addicted to the blue bubble. It's sort of, the shoes on the other foot, just back and forth with these two. And I'm just...
Well, a related story that actually came out that we're technically covering is I believe this recent update of Google Messages, which will parse some of the signals coming from through the iMessage platform from Apple users. So rather than seeing simply Gray liked a message, you will see one of the emoji reactions, or sort of not emoji reaction, but one of the reactions that will translate. Tapbacks, exactly. Now the only key thing is that they don't match up 100%, and I believe Google has one additional reaction that Apple doesn't have. So maybe maybe Apple will start to do some stuff on their side eventually. Like I get, like, Apple, this is a whole other big story, the green bubble, blue bubble thing, and we sort of missed, didn't get into that a week or two ago when it was more timely. But I get why Apple doesn't want to do RCS, because the RCS that everyone's talking about is not RCS, it's Google's version of RCS. And that's the one that's encrypted, et cetera, et cetera. And most of the carriers still aren't supporting that full on either. It tends to be something that works best, between certain flavors of Android phones on certain carriers and so on. And, Apple, still sees iMessage as a bit of a lock-in thing, et cetera, et cetera. So if there is some middle ground whereby some of the signals can get parsed back and forth, maybe that is a way forward, until such point is that there is a universal standard like SMS and MMS that everyone can agree on. And you'll still have some benefits, unique benefits to being on Android platform, some for being on iOS, and so on. But that's the whole conundrum that these it's just like the tech titans are in their pissing matches, and then the regular folks are caught in the middle. But speaking of stuck in the middle with you, how about some Valentine's Day tech gifts? Let's commercialize another another holiday, even more so than it already has been. And there's all sorts of articles out in the last week or so talking about different ways you can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to express love for your much neglected significant other in your life. So having had a look at these various articles, I just wanted to put it over to you folks. What were some of the ones that stood out to you that you thought might make an interesting gift? No spoilers for your significant other, or maybe that you might enjoy receiving as a romantic or non-romantic gift from your significant other. I'm going to start with a bit of a story about the kind of loving spouse that I am. And one time for an anniversary gift, I gave my long-suffering wife a backyard composter. So,
hey, that's a cool gift.
Yeah, so we're still married. But that, of course, was more of the gag gift than anything. And I can't even remember what the amazingly wonderful and romantic thing that followed that up with. But it's always fun to mess with expectations a little bit there. But, it's like that ongoing trope. It's like, Merry Christmas, honey. I got you an Xbox. It's like, depends on your spouse and who's that Xbox really for. So I noticed one of the gifts that showed up on a few of these lists, which I have to admit that I've been eyeing for a little bit, is the Ember Mug.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. Okay. Tasia,
it's $100.
Right.
Okay. So my buddy Dean has this, and he likes his coffee. Likes his tea, pardon me. I beg your pardon. And he raves about it. He said, the dissatisfaction in a cold cup of tea is worth far more than $100. It's just, and he has preached the good word of this thing to just about everyone who will listen. And I've got aeroplane points. I've been tempted. I've been sorely tempted.
Less guilt.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing.
Say, tell your friend Dean that I need $100.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a lot of value for $100.
All right, Tasia, this was one of your picks. Why don't you give us your thoughts on the Ember Mug 2?
Yes, if it wasn't $100, I would get one for myself because we don't celebrate Valentine's Day, so I would get one for myself. But it's a bit pricey for me for a mug, and I'm curious to know if it's dishwasher safe, because
oh no,
if I have to hand wash that mother after spending $100 on it,
wow, first world problems much. Not only talking about $100 mugs, but if we have to spend 10 seconds to actually wash it by hand.
Yes, but my coffee always gets cold.
You live close to the border, maybe you should get some help.
Don't run for office because you're going to be canceled.
Exactly, you're canceled. But I do have a digital picture frame. It's not this brand that they mention, whatever the hell brand this is that they're mentioning in this article. But a digital picture frame is seriously a great gift for anybody at any time. I'm a big fan. Love them.
So one in this one article is the Nix Play digital picture frame, and digital picture frames have been around for probably 15 years or so, and some of the old ones were not very good looking, but it was something you could put an SD card in the side and play a slideshow of selected things. So of course the screen quality is really improved on this. The size has got a bit bigger. The prices have come down. So especially if you, I think a connected one, if you have like I think it'd be great for parents or grandparents as well. Get some of the family photos on there, especially if there's kids and grandkids. It's always a nice touch for sure. Will through these number of articles that we've been sharing around, any particular gifts jump out to you? Something you might want to give or receive?
Well, I mean, some of the stuff is just too cheesy for words, like the dual charger with the heart in the middle and stuff like that. But I think one of the ones that caught my eye was this is more for me, is the retro shoebox player, the USB retro shoebox player. Just a few items above that overly sappy heart charger. The QFX Retro 39 shoebox tape.
Oh, that one. Gotcha.
Yeah, recorder with USB player.
Whoopsie.
I think that's kind of cool myself. But
So what does it actually do? Does it play cassettes or no? It's USB. Okay.
yeah, transfer your music to a cassette.
Oh, so it does have a cassette player in there, and it is
Yeah.
connected by USB. Now, my only concern with things like this is that so many modern cassette tape mechanisms are crappy. Like most of them feature
Cheap.
actually the same guts, and they're used all over the world in all
Mm.
sorts of devices, and there's not much to choose from. And they're mostly plastic components inside, and they're not like they were even 10 years ago, let alone like 20 years ago, 30 years ago in the heyday of compact cassettes. But I got to admit, it is pretty cool. And I like the big red record button. That's a nice touch. It makes it look like a Leica.
This made me actually, now that we're talking about cassettes, you probably
Here we go. Brew some
probably know
coffee. Get your Ember Mug.
no, that it's a bit of a rage to, for indie artists to release their album on cassette now. I actually know an indie artist who just released their album on mini disc as a retro thing.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was kind of cool. D Styles, who's a famous scratch DJ, did a bunch on tape, and then for fun he just released like a 25 unit run of mini discs. So I thought that was kind of cool. But
awesome. Gray, what jumped out at you from the selection?
So actually, I sat down and I talked to Ray, and I was like, "Hey, like out of all of these things, if I were to get you one of them, which is," and she said, "I don't want one of them." I'm like, "Well, how many ships do I want? I want none of them. No more stuff. No more stuff is what I've been told." So
now, but not all of them were actually stuff. Some of them were things like subscriptions, for
still
example.
Okay. My digital life is just as clogged as my physical life. We've got Apple One. We're fine.
Gotcha. Now, what about you? So that's her. Now, what about you? Because
well, I want all of them naturally. This is the conflict that we're getting each other for Valentine's Day.
Okay, am I going to decide for you then?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Why don't you?
Lego Botanical Collection. This showed up on a number of the
Nice.
lists.
My
There you go.
gosh.
If you're the type of
Thank
person
you.
that
I
has
knew you
trouble
cared.
keeping plants alive, there you go. You can build your own Lego plants, and
They're really cute though from far
Right?
away. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, people say that about me.
And then they
Also,
focus.
people have stepped on.
Yeah. Oh, then they zoom in. You can get bird of paradise, bonsai tree, and flower bouquet.
Okay, you say that. I've actually, and I have no idea where the inclination for this came from, but over the last little while, I've been having dreams about owning a bonsai tree. I haven't had one since I was a kid. I think it's still alive.
Okay, he's got to get the bonsai.
Yeah. Yep.
This is what it was, Gray.
Yep. There it is.
You were like manifesting this
It's
Lego
prophetic
bonsai.
or possibly pathetic. I'm not sure. They sound similar.
It's one or the other.
Well,
To keep it alive, no, even that one died.
we can't talk about bonsai without bringing up the 15, 20-year-old pseudo meme of bonsai kittens that was going around, and people were outraged, but it was largely fake.
Yep.
No,
Yeah,
you think?
those folks have gone on to protest vaccines now. It's a whole loop.
Mostly Photoshop work.
Oh my
But
gosh.
mostly.
Oh, they're so cute.
early internet outrage with the bonsai kittens.
Remember
All
when
right.
life was so simple?
I think the cat heard bonsai kittens and just came up and was like, I want to see. I'm getting the dirty light from down here.
So, rounding out our quasi holiday Valentine's theme, some folks, even if they're not, showering each other with gifts or even affection, why not stare at a screen together and choose an appropriate Valentine's movie? Or even an anti-Valentines, anti-romantic movie if you see fit. So there's again a number of articles, lots of digital ink's been spilled on this very topic. So Tasia, starting with you, do you have a favorite romantic flick that you like to go to, either from this list or otherwise?
So I'm actually going to pick one from this list that I haven't seen yet, but I want to see.
Okay.
And it's that one. It's Palm Springs.
Good choice.
Because I feel like Brett would also he also wants to watch that. And we rarely agree on things we would like to watch. So happy Valentine's Day.
That's a good choice. It was like Edge of Tomorrow meets the Destination Wedding. Has anyone?
I've heard really good things about it. So
have y'all seen Destination Wedding?
No.
With Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder?
No.
That came out a year or two ago. It's kind of fun. It's sort of like a Gen X's dream come true, two Gen X icons together, and there's a lot of talking. It's interesting. They're the only two characters in the entire movie that talk.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
there's
cool.
A lot of back and forth.
Where is it? Is it streaming?
It's somewhere. I think it might be on Prime.
Destination Wedding.
Yeah,
okay.
Check that out. How about you, Will?
Well, I'm gonna go a bit off the reservation in terms of romantic movies.
Speaking of canceled,
yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. You can say that.
You know what? You can say whatever you want, but yeah, there'll just be consequences.
Yeah. Well, you can have like a reservation.
It's okay. For a restaurant. You're supposed to get
exactly. That's quite all right.
So I'm not a big fan of romantic movies in general. So my picks are going to be somewhat unconventional.
Don't say Real Steel. Don't say Real Steel.
Oh, jeez. Real Steel. I love that movie. No, honestly, Real Steel.
Talking robots.
Yeah, just what is my biggest guilty pleasure. But besides that, I'm gonna. This is a bit of a weird one. Cloverfield, the original Cloverfield.
Love it, but what?
He's desperately trying to find the girl at the end of it, and in that same vein, the other one, completely a wild card here, is Fight Club. I love the ending of that because he's a spoiler alert for Fight Club, which is like a 20-year-old movie. At the end, some buildings blow up. His organization has taken down the city, and he goes to Helen Bonham Carter and says, Ed Norton says, "You've met me at a very interesting point in my life." And so that's somewhat of a love story at the end of it as well.
And apparently, if you watch it in China, the end is very different.
Really?
They have a little postscript that the perpetrators were arrested for their crimes and were doing hard time. No joke.
Oh.
So interesting pick. So Cloverfield, that's great if you want to, especially if you see it on a gigantic screen and you want to make your date nauseous, because one of the early examples of shaky cam. But I really enjoyed that movie, and even the follow-ups, the very loosely related 10 Cloverfield Lane and Cloverfield Paradox were, quite different but interesting in their own rights. But of those three, maybe the first one is the best date movie? ? Neat choice, Gray. What about you?
There's a movie that we watch every year on Valentine's Day, something that's just really gets inside you, touches the heart, and just kind of explodes outwards, and that's Alien. So
funny, I was actually thinking about that earlier today when I was just thinking about this segment, because like Alien is one of Stephanie's and my favorite movies as well. Right?
Strong female lead, right? Great dialogue, wonderful special effects.
Lots of weird psychosexual dynamics.
Geiger.
Yeah. Men's fear of.
Yep, that alien does look like a
penetration.
Straight up. So, it's a treasure. So,
all right. I'm gonna say my pick might be a little bit more traditional, and you can never go wrong with The Princess Bride.
Ah, yes.
Based on William Golding. Yes, and it never gets old. Like, we've seen it multiple times, and both Stephanie and I enjoy that. So if we were to break one out for Valentines. It may very well be that. So some of the others very quickly for those watching at home. Mom, Dad, hi. Thank you for tuning in. So Princess Bride is mentioned, of course. Shape of Water. If you're
get out of here.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't like
If
Shape
you're
of Water.
if you're an ichthyophile, sure. Splash, Age of Adeline. I've never seen it, but it sounds intriguing. Having read the description, Blake Lively. 2015, Palm Springs. We talked about with what's his face? Love and Monsters. We watched not long after it came out. Not great, but not bad. Map of Tiny Perfect Things. Anyone seen this?
No.
No? All right. So that's some one I never thought of as a romantic movie, The Mummy with Boris Karloff, 1932. Going way back.
Wow.
Practical Magic with Sandra Bullock. It feels, very 90s. Okay. And what else? Oh, Muppets Take Manhattan. Sure,
That's
friend of the show.
This list is so odd.
Friend of the show, Tim might enjoy that. He's a big Muppets fan.
You guys know what's missing from this list, right? Like one of the greatest comedies, like romantic comedies.
Real Steel.
Wasn't gonna say that. The Wedding Singer.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Agreed.
Hello. How is that not on this list? Everybody can agree on it. It's so good. Come
it's
on.
a CD player. It plays CDs.
It's so good.
And it's got Billy Idol at the end. So how
Yes.
can you go wrong?
Great soundtrack. It's just
All right.
Good choice.
Thank you.
So speaking of romantic comedies, there is a trailer for a new biopic coming out that, of course, Will is going to be keen on, and because we're all number one fans of Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos fame, and recently convicted for various and sundry financial crimes, fraud, et cetera, investor fraud more than anything. So The Dropout, about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, starring Amanda Seyfried in there. So Will, let's start with you, given that you followed Bad Blood, the podcast series, and there was a documentary as well, I believe.
Yeah,
I've
seen a bunch of things and read a bunch of things about her and about the story. This looks super interesting. It does seem to have a bit of her point of view, which is interesting. So we'll see how it actually turns out. I have to say I like the way they've dramatized it. I'm really so far. I mean, just in this trailer. One of the interesting things in the change of her voice, which those who follow the case, it's one of the interesting points is that she had a very odd pronounced voice that some people say she put on. So yeah, there does seem to be a switch in the trailer where she's talking very normally and then she puts the voice on. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm interested to see how they put that into the story for sure.
I, for one, welcome our new baritone overlords. All right, so The Dropout, I believe it is coming. It's dropping in, was it April? It's on Hulu in the States. It'll probably be up here somewhere on Crave or something like that up here in Canada. So keep an eye out for The Dropout. Looks interesting. So a couple projects this week before we wrap up. Will, you've got not one, but two.
Well, one of them was from last week. It
Double
had
dip.
been announced. Now there's an actual link, and it's on tableless.net at the moment. It's not quite on Table Beats, but it is accessible. The link probably will be in the show notes, I presume. Give Me the Loop, and it's me and Rocksteady and Function, and we each put 5 beats in. And actually, I was listening to it just the other day. Really pleased with it. All great beats, great loops. And then the other project was this kind of massive project that I was sort of at the tail end of. MK Ultra's number 8. It's this guy named Scratch Street, and he put a bunch of really talented musicians and beat makers together. I think there's some like 49 beats on this. I've got 3 on it. There's a bunch of fairly famous DJs in my world, anyways, and one semi-celebrity is DJ Starscream, who's actually part of the band Slipknot. He's the keyboardist and DJ. He does scratching for the band Slipknot. He's number 0. I guess they number each other in that band.
Speaking of 90s, wow.
Yeah, so he's somewhat famous. He's big in Japan, literally. So this is a real fun project. I was lucky, sort of, again, just sideways got involved in it. So it's a real pleasure to be part of it.
So check out tablebeats.com and tableist.net and the app, the Table Beats app on the App Store, and you can go to the library button and search for the name Molotov. Tasia, you've got yet another. You are a machine without fail. Every week, a new video from you, and we've been on a roll with Google-related ones, and this one is no different. So tell us about this.
Yeah, this one was kind of a follow-up to one I did a couple weeks ago. So these were my picks for like the top 5 Google task tips that I think would like help people with their productivity or save time when they're making their kind of to-do list. And the next 2 videos I do are not going to be Google related. I know. And Gray knows what one of the videos is because we may be working on a collab.
Nice.
Woo! But that's all we can say.
Is it in the metaverse?
Oh, spoiler!
Good night.
I'm just reading the room here. All right. Now that I've spoiled everything.
Macrame art. Thank you very much.
Well, it's ruined. So anyway.
Gray, you didn't add any links, anything to report?
I totally did add links.
What?
5 minutes
I did.
ago.
Jesus, come on.
I'm deeply wounded.
When there's you got to do it before showtime. Come on.
Yeah, there's one for Peacemaker, which is my show for the week. We'll talk about it.
No, we're not. We're doing that. Save that for next week. It's your project. Any project.
Yeah,
Any project.
digital marketing. So I'm doing a video cast tomorrow for CapU, and I believe it's the West Van Chamber, and so that will actually be available as a recorded piece.
Okay.
So
is it West Van or North Van Chamber?
The North Van Chamber. So West Van Chamber of Commerce, North Van Chamber. So tomorrow is the West Van Chamber of Commerce, I believe.
All right. So next week we'll have a link there.
Yes.
Will that only be for chamber members, or will that be
they're
for
actually
the public?
releasing them after. So the meeting is invite only, but afterwards the video is available on CapU's website.
Good stuff. So if you want to find out about Tasia stuff, TasiaCustody.com, youtube.com/TasiaCustody, and Graham's latest, we'll revisit it next week with an actual link for you. Find out Momentous at Momentous.tv, Facebook.com/MomentousTV, Twitter.com/MomentousTV, Instagram.com/Momentous.tv. On YouTube, search my name, look for the Momentous playlists. William, Gray, Tasia, Mom, Dad, all our moms and dads, everyone at home. Thank you for watching, and we hope your week is truly momentous. Hug a trucker.
Oh, no.
No.